call this meeting to order. Oh, what do we do?
Okay, let me try that again. Ready for the member roll call?
Okay.
Okay, Judith Humberg. Here. Natalie Sayre.
Here.
Louis Fagoni.
Here.
Thank you. John Vars.
Here.
Thank you. Bill Cook.
Here.
Thank you. Peter Markey.
Here.
And I'm Lauren Silberman, and I'm here. I always feel weird saying that. Natural Resource Conservation Staff Jim Howard. Okay. San Mateo County Agricultural Commissioner Corin Whittle.
Here.
Thank you. Farm Bureau Executive Director Jess Brown.
Here.
San Mateo County Planning Staff Summer Burleson.
Here.
And UC Co-op Extension Representative Frank McPherson. Pearson. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 voting members here, so we have a quorum. Okay.
All right. Very good. I guess I'm never sure because it seems like Lauren reads whatever it is into the minutes, but number 3 is the adopt the resolution to continue to meet via Zoom because of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic.
Definitely. And actually, since we have a light agenda this week, can I just ask Summer for reading things into the record? I think that used to just be regular agenda items, but should I be doing that for everything? Or does it matter?
I don't know that it matters. I mean, definitely the regular items, but yeah, I mean, if that wasn't a practice before, I don't know that it's necessary now.
Okay, then
I guess it's more preference.
Yeah, I'll probably stick with although we have no regular agenda items today, but if everyone's comfortable, I'll save the reading for like the projects with the specific project information. Might save us a little time.
Great.
I'll take that as an okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're continuing to adopt the resolution.
So I think someone.
So that is still, yes, a requirement.
Mm-hmm. And actually, when I was doing the minutes, I noticed we named the first one Resolution 1, and when we didn't name the second time, should we be numbering our resolutions as we go?
Yes, I think this one is would be, I put it in just the parentheses until you guys act on it tonight, but this would be number 4.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. I can start putting it on the agenda too, so it's clear.
I think that'd be helpful for my minutes if that's not much trouble. Yeah. Okay, since this isn't about minutes, and I feel I will make a motion that as a result of the continuing COVID-19 pandemic state of emergency, meeting in person would present imminent risks to the health and safety of attendees, and we will continue virtual meetings.
I'll second it.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, I think Bill beat you to it. He's our regular seconder. But okay, roll call vote. Judy.
Yes.
Natalie.
Yeah.
Louis.
Yes.
John.
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
And I am Lauren. I vote yes, and it passes unanimously.
Forgot me, Peter. I vote yes.
Oh my gosh, I am so sorry, Peter. I keep skipping past like all of these vacant positions, and I completely skip by you too. My bad. I'm sorry, Peter. How do you vote on the past resolution?
I vote yes.
Okay, thank you. Now it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now it's a unanimous pass. My bad.
No problem.
Very good. And then agenda item number 4 are oral communications. If there are any members of the community or any members of the public that would like to address the committee, this is now the time to do so. Try to raise your hand if you can. It looks like Audrey is raising her hand. If you could go ahead, Audrey. If you're
Hi, everyone.
unmuted or
can you hear me?
Yourself.
Great. I just
Yes.
wanted to give you all an update on the plan to have the marketing meeting for producers. We had hoped to, or we had rescheduled that meeting for February 2nd.
All right, Audrey, I'm going to stop you there because that's on the agenda as number
gotcha.
7. Anything for items not on the agenda?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Then sorry to cut you off. Please just put a pin in it and probably like 10 minutes, we'll be back.
Well, I'll be waiting with bated breath. Anyone else? Participants raising hands?
Is it time for us to comment? Things not on the agenda?
No.
Yes, it can be, I think, unless anyone from the community or from the public at large, I guess is what, just give them a moment more to raise a hand, perhaps. Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
Thank you. I'm just curious as to the status of the vacancies and the new members being approved, and also how that's affecting our election process.
I have an update on that, Bill. I'll go ahead and give it to you guys. Supervisor Horsley and I have been interviewing the candidates, the applicants for the Ag Advisory Committee, the 4 vacancies. If you remember correctly, it's 2 farmers, 1 public member, and 1 conservationist. We'll conclude the interviews this week, and hopefully after that, the positions will be offered, accepted, and then it'll go before the board on January 25th. So I'm hoping that means that they'll be ready for our February meeting. Any questions about that?
Are we allowed to know who the applicants are?
I don't know.
I don't believe at this time. I think that had been a question fielded to the boards and commissions division. That's not, since it's still an ongoing process at the current time, that's not able to be disclosed at this time.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Natalie had a comment.
Thank you. Yeah, I was actually checking the Board of Supervisors agenda the other day for another reason. And I saw in there that the conservationist person had already been approved for the AAC committee, and they gave the person's name and they said that they were going to be officially put into the committee tomorrow night at the Board of Supervisors meeting. So I don't know if that wasn't supposed to be there or something. I don't know, but just to let you know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the meeting for Tuesday, is that the meeting you're talking about? Tuesday's board meeting?
Correct. Tomorrow night, January 11th. Yeah. Just to let you guys know in case maybe you want to take it out or something. That's not supposed
to. I didn't know that was actually in there already. But it should, and if you're looking for the agenda for the next 3 positions, it will be, it'll be on the January 25th. I noticed it wasn't there today when I was looking, so.
Oh, for the 11th?
No, for the 25th meeting.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because when I checked it a couple of days ago, but it was for something completely different. I saw that, yeah, the conservationist person had been posted on there.
Okay,
But-
let me look that up and see what that is. And then I had to continue on. I had another announcement, and it's that we have COVID rapid tests available. These are obviously very coveted right now. So these are for farm workers. And so the supply we have is super limited. And so we're really only giving out 10 boxes, which would be like 2 tests per kit. These are a little bit different than the kits that we had available in late October. So these are two individual tests per box. So they could be opened and separated to give to different people. So if you guys are interested, please call our office. And our number is 650-363-4700. We are expecting more kits. We just don't know when they're going to come. And we just want to eliminate anyone like trying to hoard the kits at this time, because these are really for the surge happening right now to kind of help, you know, make sure people aren't spreading it. And then thirdly, I have, we are in our middle of our operator ID issuance season. So staff usually do headquarters inspections at that time, but because of the surge, we are limiting our non-essential inspections right now, just to kind of for the next, till probably the end of the month at this point. And so we will still issue your operator ID because you need that, but we'll do it remotely. And then we'll get back to you on doing the other parts of the inspection. And so that's all I have. And I'll look up the board item for tomorrow.
So what you did was you minimized it. This little guy, this white box with the green arrow.
Okay.
So that's all I have to report out.
Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Both Lauren, do you want to go ahead and you had your hand up?
Sure, I think Summer, you were first if you want to. Okay. I had 2 things, one business oriented and one just a general interest question. First, so now that we're done with our recommendation, our notes for the farm stand guidelines, we can circle back to the ag tourism guidelines. So I don't know, and I don't know if everyone remembers, but around a year ago, we created a subcommittee to review the ag tourism guidelines. And we had a couple meetings in February of last year. And I have the minutes from those meetings, but that never came back to the full committee because we were waiting for the farm stand stuff to be done. So Summer, I have those minutes to send over to you this week. And I wanted to mention it so that we can agendize it at our February meeting. Because I think we need to discuss things before they're agendized, if I remember.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. And so you guys did already have a subcommittee put together of the AAC member. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And Laura served on the subcommittee. So I don't know if you fill in that role. And
yeah,
if I remember, it was Bill, Natalie, Ron, and myself, maybe?
And Peter.
And Peter. Okay. Thank you. It was Peter. So I don't know if we still need to have subcommittee meetings around it, but I will take our notes and provide them to Summer this week so that they can be.
That'd be great. I'll take a look at it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks.
And then the other item, I just wanted to add, and I noticed we had a light agenda, so I figured I could ask, but I noticed so I live in Montara. I drive past what I've always called Farmer's Daughter, but I think is actually Cabrillo Farms all the time. It's probably the farm I drive by the most on the coast. And for the first time in my life, in 30 something years, I noticed that there's a lot of Brussels sprouts that were left in the field, not harvested. And I was curious if anyone had any idea as to why. Is that like a farm labor shortage? Was that the heavy rains coming and the big storms and kind of flooded the field? Heavy equipment couldn't get out. But it caught my attention the last couple of weeks and I wanted to bring it up case anyone had any insights.
I can answer that. This is Peter. Can I go ahead?
Awesome. Yeah.
Because of the heavy rains, and then not only that was the massive rains, they started breaking down, and then right after the rains, it got warm to accelerate the sprouts from breaking down, and they couldn't harvest the volume that they normally harvest because of the muddy conditions and all. Not only did Cabrillo Farms lost a lot, but John Giusti lost quite a bit too that he couldn't get to, that was breaking down. And then when on Cabrillo Farms, when they were harvesting, they had to cut high in the stalks and then the black spots started coming on, and so it was really a disaster.
Oh, that's too bad.
Well, that confirms my worst suspicions. I'm sorry to hear that.
And that, Peter, that's just a matter of the sprouts softening up, so they won't be able to keep long enough for it to be accepted by the distributors, mainly.
They started breaking down that they couldn't harvest them, so yes, they wouldn't accept the distributor because they weren't up to the quality, and it's all weather related. They're ready to go, ready to harvest. And I give you an example. Yeah. We had a similar situation in 81, 82, and that's when Pescadero flooded. And when we used to do machine harvest back in that day, we used to harvest like 40 bins of Brussels sprouts a day. And then when we didn't have the crew because a lot of them walked off, and our equipment was getting stuck, and we couldn't get them out. And our worst day was 4 bins of Brussels sprouts in one day, where we were accustomed to harvest 40. So it just you can't get the volume out because you can't get to the stalks, can't get close to them, and the workers, it's hard to walk in the mud, so they're not putting out the production that they should be doing, and so everything goes against you. And then when it kept raining, and it stopped, and then kept raining, and then when it stopped for a little while, it came warm weather that accelerated the breaking down of the sprouts that were drowning. So
yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, and when you work on mass production, you're not working on a large profit volume, so you have to recoup 1 acre a loss of Brussels sprouts. You got to get about 10 or 12 acres of good Brussels sprouts, of good yield, to offset that one a loss. So it's like I said, a lot out there. It was really a disaster of the early rains.
Gary, did you guys see the same situation in Pescadero area? Or Peter, sorry.
We have to handpick years ago. We don't have quite the situation. We lost a little bit, very little, but what affected us was unfortunately, and this is why we keep talking about agriculture dying on the coast, and this is not COVID related, but in 2019, the price for us was under breaking even, and we could see the picture very well that they're just growing them too many in the Salinas Castroville area that we can't compete. And me and my brother grew 100 acres. So the following year in 2020, we grew 10 acres. This year we grew 5 acres, and we're going with more different varieties and going locally to local stores and not through distributors, and trying a whole different way. And so, like I say, unfortunately, the volume of mass production, because how we've known it of years ago on the coast, is diminishing, and this is why we see so much fallow land of agricultural land going away on the coast, because supporting the farmland's one thing, but it's not. We also got to support the farmer to be successful, and it's not happening with the competition that we're up against now.
Okay. I did find on the agenda for January 11th that Fred Crowder is recommended to be appointed as the conservationist for the Ag Advisory Committee. I'm sorry, I thought that was all going to be on the January 25th meeting. You guys are all familiar with Fred, working with him in the past. So he was appointed and put on, and that was done within the limits of the agenda. It takes a certain amount of time to get things on the agenda. And so that was put on just to get somebody on here as quickly as possible, but he still wasn't available for this meeting because he hasn't officially been appointed yet. So.
What are the qualifications for a conservationist? I mean, what's the prerequisites for that?
He applied and he has a lot of knowledge and information about the coast. And I believe a conservationist, I don't have it in front of me. Yeah, I think it's like it.
Yeah, I will say I imagine it's a bit, not loose isn't the right word, but I'm here in the agricultural business position, which was previously held, I think, by ag bank representatives and stuff. But because I work in business that's related to ag, I remember like having a casual conversation with the planner at the time being like, yeah, that'll work. So that gives you any context for my unique ag business position as well. I think it's, you can make a case for it.
Yeah, I don't think there's a specific qualification, but it is a person who advocates and acts for protection and preservation of the environment and wildlife. And Fred pretty much knows most of the issues surrounding agriculture and the environment. He lives on the coast, so he's aware of many of the issues.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Summer, did you have your hand is raised, but I don't know if that's from a previous.
Yeah, I just wanted to real quick, just kind of going, off of, we're putting together new binders for the new AAC members, just, regulations, bylaws. I think, I'm assuming all of the current AAC members have received that in the past, but if you haven't for some reason, or if you need a new one sent to you, let me know, just shoot me an email and we can, add the print jobs to the prints that we're doing for when the new members come on board. Thanks.
Summer, do you know whether or not there's any initiation sort of do we welcome them in and kind of get them going, like a training sort of, or?
I don't know what's been done in the past. Members that are here tonight may, have experiences that they can share, but I was planning on, without having anything that I know of to go off of, I thought about just holding a meeting with the new members that are going to be coming on board before the first meeting that they attend, and just kind of going through the binder information briefly that we'd be providing them, and just an overview of the AAC committee and how they relate to the, the planning department, and going over any questions that they might have. If there's something else that's been done in the past that members have experience of going through, please let me know. And we can certainly, if something worked well or didn't, we can certainly modify.
Just to answer your question, I didn't have any training, but when I came on, I can't speak for anyone else, but a meeting like that certainly would have been helpful and sounds like a great idea. And I know that Audria, I forget exactly what project you were working on when we first met, Audria, but you were meeting with all of the AAC members. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong here, don't let me speak for you, but a result of that was a desire to have training for new members that hadn't existed before.
That's correct. And I think I had brought this up at the last meeting. One of the ideas that came out of the interviews that I did with members was kind of like a buddy system, because as you guys know, there's a lot to learn. And so I guess having someone, an established member, kind of just connect with a newer member, a number of established members connect with a newer member to just be available outside of meeting times to answer questions that they might have. Sounded like people thought that that would go a long way.
And Natalie, I don't want to speak for you, but Natalie and I were talking about it, and it does seem like it'd be helpful to have maybe training on certain issues like water. Natalie, what were kind of the things we were discussing a while back?
Yeah, I don't remember. I'm so sorry, but we did talk about it. You're right. And but there were specifics. You're absolutely right that we talked about would be good. I think, but I think the general was just, really having knowledge on some of the issues that we vote on.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think we both felt that it would be better to have more information to make, more informed decisions before members voted.
Yeah.
Along those lines.
Yeah, so I think that's just the consensus in general would be helpful.
Yeah, so I think it's great what you're talking about, how to conduct when you go through a meeting, because I was like Laura and I didn't have any training either. And I do appreciate everyone who helped me along. But like Corin said, on top of that, also kind of the crux of the issues, because if there's a way to say, hey, look, these are the PAD guidelines, but even deeper than that, what are some of these violations and how does that go? And I know it's hard to predict what might come up, but maybe just to inform as much as we can. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I know, just for my part.
Yeah, and I don't recall. Go ahead, Judith.
No, I've got really bad internet connection, so I think I'm really lagging in the. I would have really valued some amount of training and orientation, and I didn't even have a binder for the first year and a half, so I think it would be really valuable to have an orientation meeting, and I might even attend it myself, just because it's never too late to learn. And I think what Natalie is suggesting, I guess it sounds like, they've had a conversation about training on, issues that are particularly pertinent locally to coastside relative to wildlife conservation, water, all of that would be really valuable.
I want to even, that's a good point. I want to take it a step further briefly, if I could too, is this is jumping into a different lake, if you will, but perhaps in the future we can, if the time allows, we could perhaps invite people like Water Master or people like that to maybe do some sort of presentation for us.
That's a great idea.
I think it'd be helpful, yeah. So something to stew over.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, I can't recall getting a specific training besides receiving the binder, but I remember one of the first meetings I attended, there was somebody discussing the Brown Act and trying to explain how it would apply to the committee, like a lawyer or somebody who worked for the county. And I don't know if that was deliberately, maybe Fred Crowder would know, but I think that at least occasionally agendizing things like that are necessary for committee members to know, or ideally we would know, that could be kind of brought in every couple of years, just to make sure if a committee member hasn't really been primed on a specific topic, that would come up. Obviously, the best way to do it would be to get everyone up to speed before they join the committee, but there might be too much information really to take on. And I was thinking, like, specifically the rules around, like if we were to change the rules on farm stands or the rules around ag tourism, having that agendized where somebody could summarize some of that information and give context for it for new committee members might be helpful. Those are just two areas that I'm thinking of, but even more important probably would be the rules around development on PADE land. So I'm not sure if anyone else on the committee remembers if there had been a deliberate kind of plan to integrate learning around that, because I know that Brown Act thing did happen. I was like, oh, they're trying to teach us like what we need to know, and then there wasn't a lot of other agenda items that were of that nature.
Also love those ideas.
Yeah.
Natalie, were you going to respond to that?
Audrey, did you want?
Sorry.
Natalie, go ahead.
I'm going to say that I would be happy to volunteer myself to try to schedule some speakers if in fact it's voted into and agrees that it's something that we might feature, and perhaps maybe that's an agenda item. I would be happy to do that because it's for different things. Get an idea of what it's.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry to interrupt, Natalie. I think you just covered your mic because the sound just cut out there about halfway through.
Sorry, I was just going to say that I would be happy to find out, perhaps at a future meeting, if you guys want to put on an agenda, if you decide to put an agenda. If you don't, that's fine. But if you do decide to, I would be happy to volunteer myself to put out, to find speakers and bring them to various meetings that you feel that there might be time, or schedule them only at meetings that you feel there's time. Something to think about if you want to put on the agenda in the past, just because it's something I'm familiar with because I did that before somewhere else. So if it's something you guys felt would be a good idea. That's all.
Yeah, definitely.
I guess that raises a question for me for summer in terms of what's the process for getting these what we're discussing on the agenda. Is it something that the committee members would need to kind of direct or volunteer to direct, as Natalie just shared, or is this discussion and kind of the topics we mentioned enough to get the ball rolling?
Yeah, I think maybe a little of both. I mean, I think that, to the degree we've got light agenda meetings like the one tonight, if we had, a speaker in mind that the committee wanted to hear a presentation from, we could include them on the agenda, or a couple of them related to various topics. And I would just need to, whoever is going to find those members, or if you have a topic and you want planning staff to look into trying to find somebody, I think just a little, communication on what the topic might be and who we might be able to find between the committee members or planning staff to agendize on the meeting. Certainly if Natalie or others have people, in mind that you'd like to reach out to, or we want to pass that information over to staff, we can reach out to them and ask if they'd be willing to come and do a presentation either way.
If we're going to bring people in to advise and educate the committee members, it would seem to me that the committee should probably make a motion and vote on who the person would be and approve them to come into the meeting, or some sort of formal process for doing that. What do you think, Summer?
Yeah, if you want to, I guess the first thing could be if the committee wanted to come up with some topics such as water or conservation or whatever topics you guys are interested in learning more about or hearing from speakers about. And then maybe it's a call for anybody that knows of any speakers, and we can bring those to a committee meeting, and people can, the committee can, decide on who, maybe there's 2 or 3 specialists in a certain area, and the committee could decide, who they may want to hear from, perhaps based on backgrounds, of those people or experts. And then maybe it's, 2 or 3 of them that you want to hear different perspectives from, and then we can agendize it.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you, Summer.
With that in mind, I'm like, let's keep this momentum going. We've mentioned 4 topics already that I captured for the minutes, including water. I'm generally going to say ag land use regulations, PAD, things like that, wildlife conservation, and the Brown Act compliance. So that right there sounds like 4 good topics to start with.
I would just add in the Brown Act. I had been considering, so the Ag Advisory Committee does have counsel through the county. Kim Marlowe is the counsel for the Ag Advisory Committee. And that was a topic with, the new year and new members coming on board that I was toying around with, asking if she would be willing to actually come and speak about the Brown Act and give a little presentation on that. And so that would be my recommendation for the Brown Act, is to have counsel come and speak on that. And once the new committee members come on board.
Great, love that idea.
Does Audrey, did you have your hand up from before? Or are you hoping to chime in now?
I keep raising my hand and then someone else says what I was going to say. But one other idea that I had, or I'll just say that I really like the idea of doing a study session. And I think that it makes a lot of sense to open that up to all of the members instead of just the new members. And I love the ideas that you guys have come up with so far. I think scheduling might be hard because sometimes you guys have a lot of stuff on the agenda. And so one idea I'll throw out there is that, like, I guess if you plan enough in advance, because I think it could be hard to schedule with speakers that you might want to come, that maybe you could do special meetings that were study sessions. And that way you don't have to worry about balancing that with the other agenda items. But that would be extra time. But if you did like 1 a quarter or something like that. I'd be happy to help find speakers too, for especially the like conservation and water topics. So that's it.
Thank you. All right, so we've had a lot, kind of an extended committee member update session. How are we feeling about moving on to there is a lot going on with COVID-19 in the moment. But I think knowing that there's some rapid test kits available through the county is great.
I think Natalie just had her hand up. Maybe one last thing on the last item.
I did, thank you. If it's okay, I just wanted to say, is it appropriate to put, or could we put that, what we just talked about, having speaker on the next agenda, so it doesn't, the next meeting's agenda, I apologize, so it doesn't fall through the cracks?
I like that idea, kind of putting it at the top.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Checking it on, okay.
All right, great, thank
you. Sounds good.
Do we need a motion to put that on the agenda?
Good question. I think if we discuss it in this agenda item, if it's been discussed publicly, it can be agendized in the future, is my understanding, but correct me if I'm wrong somewhere.
Yeah, I don't think you need a motion for it. Yeah.
So because we discussed it in a public meeting and expressed our interest in agendizing it, that's enough to get it in the agenda.
Cool.
Onwards.
Okay, great. Lauren, you often tell us about the testing that's ongoing during the COVID-19 update. I guess it does seem like we're having a little bit of a surge, certainly with in the schools and on my own farm. I'm feeling it. So hopefully people aren't getting terribly sick.
Yes, I'm pulling up actually my notes from the last Farm Worker Affairs group that we had. Okay. Coastside Hope is continuing to run. Okay, first off, I'll just say, as everyone knows, we're dealing with a massive surge. It's more, from my understanding and what I've read, it's more contagious. In the past, cloth masks are not protecting enough and really need to have surgical or KN95 or N95s. With that in mind, there's upcoming booster clinics. Coastside Hope is continuing to run clinics every Friday and Sunday afternoons. Yesterday, there was a county hosted clinic in Half Moon Bay focused just on under 18, on youth. Puente will be hosting a booster clinic on January 24th at Pescadero High School. So that's probably the most pertinent for the South Coast right now. They're also did one today, but that isn't going to help. And then Healthcare for the Homeless and Farm Worker Health Program, HCHFH, is actively reaching out to farms this week to see if anyone wants to schedule another booster clinic. So that's in terms of booster clinics. Now, in terms of testing, let me see. HCHFH also has a bunch of over-the-counter rapid antigen tests. They're distributing them to the local service providers, so Coastside Hope and Puente as well. So if Department of Ag runs out, you can also reach out to those service providers. They're putting in another order for more for more rapid tests tomorrow. And you can email, I don't know if anyone interfaces with Irene at HCHFH. I can drop her email and an email to everyone, but you can request, if you have any specific requests for tests, you can make them before tomorrow and she'll include it in the order. But same as Commissioner Corrin, please don't stockpile them, they're for the surge. Let me look through my other notes and see if there's anything else related to COVID. Okay, here we go. Curtis Chan with the Department of Health gave us an update. He said, as we know, data is showing a big spike of COVID-19 cases. However, there does not seem to be a big spike happening of flu and common cold. So that was a nice balance point that at least everyone's being careful enough. They're not getting the flu right now. At this point, even though everyone's prioritizing testing, there's not enough tests. And so the Department of Health asked that if anyone is developing symptoms, assume that it's COVID and behave accordingly. Isolate, get tested. And just to be aware, Rita from Puente said that a lot of people are on Nextdoor saying, oh, well, there's not a lot of tests, we don't have a lot of testing data right now, and assuming that means that case counts are low, and that's not the case. Just now that there's more home tests available, people aren't reporting positive COVID tests in the way that there were before. So even though official test numbers are lower, it does not mean that case numbers are lower on the coast side. Curtis also let us know that of the respiratory viruses being currently identified, 90% of them are COVID. So don't assume it's COVID. Don't assume you have a common cold if you don't have access to testing. And then all the local service providers have also identified that there's been a big, I think, due to everything going on, food insecurity. So they're upping their food distributions this month. So there'll be more food distributions at Alas, Puente, and Coastside Hope this month. And I think that was everything from the FAC. I'm sorry, that was a lot of information I just threw at you guys. So if you have any questions, let me know.
That was great information. Thank you.
Also, I haven't been as good about sending these emails out, but if anyone wants to be on the FAC update emails, it's information like this and all sorts of other stuff. And I'm happy to include you. I think I include the Farm Bureau. Jess, I know you're on that list. So if anyone else is interested in just being on that email list, just to get the notes, happy to include you.
And I have just a little bit to add. Oh, sorry, Bill.
It's okay.
Okay, so the county they've upped their testing too, and so the expo has testing available too for anyone on the other side of the hill. And then let's see. So there's a website for that. And then it is really confusing right now about for employers, the standards that you're supposed to be abiding by if someone's positive or a close contact. And it just recently changed, and the best place to go is the California Department of Public Health. They have it really clear on their website. There's like a table that shows, how long someone should be out if they're a close contact, whether or not they were boosted and completed their vaccination series. And so kind of what we're under right now in the state of California is we're under Cal OSHA's ETS, I think that's what it's called, Emergency Temporary Standards. And they're gonna amend them, and it should go into effect January 14th. So at that point, as an employer, that's what you'll have to abide by. And that's, of course, a Friday of this week. So I think you're kind of still going to be working under the old standards, which I think is the 10-day quarantine. I know everyone's heard a lot about this 5-day thing, but it's technically not completely in effect for employers. So you'll want to look this up and make sure you're seeing exactly what's going on if you have COVID positives out at work or someone's a close contact.
Piggybacking on what Commissioner Whittle just shared, I have to manage all the COVID policies for my job where I work. Super fun. And the biggest resource we use as an employer is that frequently asked questions page on Cal OSHA's website. That's how I answer all my questions for everything related to workplace COVID stuff. So in addition to, I'm going to check out the California Department of Health website. Thank you for mentioning that. But also want to throw out that the COVID FAQ page on Cal OSHA's website is the best resource I've found for employers so far.
Yeah, one question I have. Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
Well, thank you. So does either the California Department of Health or the county or OSHA have any data on the severity of the cases that are happening? I know we've got a lot of cases, but like what percentage of them are severe? What percentage are requiring hospitalization? What the deaths are compared to the past data, say from a year ago. Do we have that data anywhere? Does anybody know? Because I've been hearing that it's much milder and people are not getting hospitalized as much, but I don't really know if that's true or not.
I've also been hearing the same thing. And I know because there's less testing and the testing that's available is more home-based testing. The update we got from County Health last week was that they're not focusing on tracking that stuff right now because the data is not available.
They're certainly tracking deaths, and they're certainly.
I'm answering your question with the information I have available. if
well,
I don't have to share my resources.
I'm asking if there's any data from these, official organizations, not what we understand, but does anybody aware of any official data on that?
The San Mateo County Health Department has a dashboard where they post all the data, and okay. I haven't looked at it in a while, but I would definitely recommend going there because that's San Mateo County data. And so you'll want to see what it says. And like Lauren said, they're not tracking the testing as much because of all the home-based testing. I think they're tracking what they have, but obviously they're not getting all the data from that.
But they will have the number of deaths?
They would, yeah, because that's definitely still in the system. So I would recommend, just searching San Mateo County Health Department COVID dashboard or something.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it, Cory.
Yeah.
And then just to finish what I was saying before you interrupted me, our county health officer is less focused on testing data because he doesn't want to discourage people from seeking treatment or any stigma around testing positive. So in general, what I was sharing is the county is not as driven by data around this as it was earlier in the pandemic. I know that's not a direct answer, but it was just context to share.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I had an inquiry related to quarantining employees because we're having to face some of that right now, and obviously people don't want to miss work because they need the pay. And I think there are resources through Puente. I'm not sure how easily they are accessed to kind of help people out if they're having to miss work. And I'm wondering if anyone present has any additional information about how we might be able to help fill gaps for folks who are missing work.
That is a great question. I'm looking at my notes from last week. That was not specifically discussed, but I do know, and this is more North Coast, but Coastside Hope does a lot of grants like that, like just small grants, rental assistant grants, things like that for folks who are out of work. So Coastside Hope may be a resource. For the South Coast, my guess is Puente as well.
Okay.
And I know that they've been doing rental assistant grants and things like that they can get reimbursed by federal and state agencies.
Mm-hmm.
That's not, I wish I had more specific information though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this just came on so fast, and it's really just affecting all of us. So I would think there would be stuff coming in the future, hopefully. Unfortunately, that doesn't help anyone today.
Yeah.
It's dealing with it.
It certainly seems like there's this really major spike in the number of cases. But I'm so curious as to what the result of that is as far as number of deaths and people in hospitals, and is our medical personnel being overwhelmed, or are they not seeing, or do they still have beds available and stuff?
Yeah.
I completely agree. And I wish we had that information as well, Bill. Just to circle back to your question, John, and I kind of said something similar. Everyone's upping their food distribution this month. The city of Half Moon Bay, Alas, Puente, Coastside Hope. So there should be more food, coming through from Second Harvest. And then I think folks can apply for rental assistant and kind of short-term grants as well.
I have a quick question, if that's okay, is related to this. Is there a place, I don't know, where you don't have to give your name, if you will, sort of let the county know if you see that there's major violations regarding the PPP protocol and all the other COVID protocols, you know, in big numbers, you know, regarding agriculture. And I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer, if you will, but I'm concerned because unfortunately I've seen lately places that aren't taking this seriously at all. And I think it's affecting a lot of people. And I think some people are scared to speak up about it, you know, because of retaliation. Whereas if they had a place that they could call, you know, discreetly, and give the information so it could be checked out. And if there is a place like that, where is that? Does anyone have that information?
So way back earlier, we may have even discussed it back in 2020, which, gosh, it feels like yesterday and also different lifetime ago. There is a county has created a COVID-19 business compliance team. If you go on the county website and search COVID compliance, you'll get to an online form where you can enter information about a business you're concerned about. I also just pulled up that website just to double check, and they said while the online portal is preferred, those needing language assistance or other assistance can call 211 and go through that county service. So I'd say 211 or the county compliant COVID enforcement team.
And people can do this confidentially, do you know?
Yeah, it's
okay, good. Because you know, I've been approached myself about people seeing things at other places, and I've seen those same things, and it's kind of scary because you don't want to cause a problem, but at the same time, when it's a blatant disregard for the safety of the other people, that's when you just got to say, hey, you know, you got to call it in, you know. So thank you, Lauren.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And often I've found it's not from a lack of wanting, it's from a lack of resources. So I think a big piece from this compliance team is they can come in with PPE and trainings and like help everyone get up to speed.
That's good. Thanks.
Any other COVID questions while we're on the topic, other than when is this going to be over? Okay, great. Then what I'll make sure to do moving forward is when I get a notification of like a clinic or testing or COVID clinic or something on the coast, I'll forward it to this group just to make sure everyone has the same information.
That'd be great. Thank you, Lauren. All right, so I guess we're up to number 7, which is a committee discussion and update of next action steps for market development in San Mateo County.
Audrey, we're finally ready.
I think Audrey was.
I was just waiting to see if anyone else was going to say anything. Yeah. All right. Sorry, I didn't fully read the agenda, I guess. So the group that's planning this meeting, we had picked a date of February 2nd, but we just kind of reassessed, and given the surge that's happening right now that kind of came unexpectedly, we did decide to postpone because the group feels really strongly that the meeting happen in person, because one of the desired outcomes is just increased kind of connection, networking, collaboration between producers, and that can be harder to achieve virtually. So that's my update right now. And I'm looking forward to the pandemic being over and scheduling meetings not being so complicated. But I'll give you guys an update next month, and hopefully we'll have a new date and a target to work towards.
Yay.
All right, I guess that concludes our our agenda items above the line.
Lots of good New Year planning. I just wanted to circle back to one last thing, John, specifically to what you asked, and I just double checked Puente's website, and they have a COVID-19 relief fund that I believe people can apply for due to lost work, lost jobs, family crises, to help pay rent, buy groceries, pay students tuition, and more. So I think for the South Coast, you can direct folks to Puente's COVID relief fund. And I can say just Coastside Hope as well, they're pretty good about turning those around pretty quickly so that folks aren't stuck waiting.
Okay, so is agenda number item number 8, is that one that we actually need to read into the record? Or
I think we're good. We don't have a regular agenda today. So I guess Summer, do you want to talk us through
I can just run through the director's report here. The planning and building department has not received any PAD applications since the last reporting month. We've not taken any PAD applications to the Board of Supervisors or the Planning Commission within this past month. There was one coastal development permit exemption application that was submitted during this past month, and it was a CDX, a coastal development exemption, planning case number PLN 00466 for a new driveway approach to some existing structures on a property in Pescadero with minor grading and no tree removal. The agricultural preserve that the Agricultural Advisory Committee heard, I think, early 2021 for Coastways Ranch at 640 Cabrillo Highway did go to the Board of Supervisors on December 14th and was approved. And that concludes the projects that we've seen, project activity this past month. And then just that the next regular AAC meeting will be February 14th, 2022. And as far as we know, will continue to be held via video conference. And report of any updates on AAC vacancies. Corin provided that at the beginning of the meeting, but for anybody that has just tuned in, interviews for the AAC vacancies continues this week from last week, and it looks like the Board of Supervisors at their meeting tomorrow morning has on the agenda for a recommendation to appoint Fred Crowder as conservationist for the conservationist seat, and we hope to have the remaining vacancies, the member of the public and the 2 farmer positions that are still remaining filled and soon, and going to for appointment to the board. It sounds like the target is the end of January, so that hopefully they'll be on board for the next February AAC meeting. And that concludes the director's report. Mm-hmm.
Summer, what was the address of the driveway relocation?
Let's see. It didn't have it on there.
Pescadero Creek Road, but in Loma
The
Mar.
parcel number is here.
Yeah, it's, I can, sorry about that. I noticed that when I was reading it, that it didn't pull up an actual address. So let me pull it up here just real quick. Looks like it's 6545 Pescadero Creek Road
Okay.
in Loma Mar area.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I guess for anybody who's not familiar with the addresses, is that the addresses correspond to the mileage from the coast highway. So that would be 6.4 miles in from the coast highway.
I never knew that, and that is such a useful piece of local insight to know. Thank you.
Every main road that goes inland from the coast highway is that way. So Purisma Creek, you know, all of them, Tanitas, Pescadero Road.
So in Half Moon Bay too?
That I'm not sure.
Repeat that, Bill. Please repeat it again.
Okay, so on all of the roads, actually starting the coast highway at the county line and moving north, the addresses are the mileage. So for instance, we're 10350, we're 10 miles, 10.3 miles north of the county line in Santa Cruz. And when you go, let's say, Highway 84, and you go inland on Highway 84, the addresses like 4,000 would be 4 miles in from the coast highway. The same thing is true of Purisma, Pescadero Creek Road, all of them. So it's kind of helpful if you know the address, you can really kind of get a pretty good sense as to where that property is.
That is so interesting. Thank you for sharing that, Bill. And so on Highway 92, if in fact that's true in Half Moon Bay, our address is 78, but then my father-in-law's old house is 11621, but it's directly across Highway 92. So would it then be where it goes east and then comes back west, if that's true for 92, you think?
92, I don't know. When I get to Half Moon Bay, the world goes crazy for me. So,
Bill, do homework for us. This is really interesting information.
That's my, you know, little tidbit of knowledge. I finally contributed something here.
Not finally. You contribute all the time.
Thank you.
Really interesting information, though. Thank you.
One question for Bill.
Sure.
6525 Cabrillo Highway, how's that defined?
6525 Cabrillo Highway, and that's in like south towards Pescadero?
No, that's adjacent to the mushroom farm, the red house.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so that's right on the south side of Pescadero. So that's 6525, that's 6.5 miles north of the Santa Cruz County line.
Okay.
Yeah, and the mushroom farm, I think is anyways, it's like 6 point something, of course, right next door. And I don't know if it's the property line or the driveway or something, but it gets you right in the ballpark of it.
Gotcha.
That's a really cool property.
How does a road like Cloverdale work if it's running north to south?
Yeah, parallel, I don't know.
All bets are off.
Yeah,
yeah.
My guess, and I'd be guessing, but I know on some of them, like you go to Stage Road, and as you go north on Stage Road, it's the mileage going north from Stage Road. And if you go south, like towards the IDS hall, I think it also is small numbers, but they're getting larger as you go south, starting from the intersection of Pescadero Creek Road.
The post office.
Right. Yeah. Pretty sure that's right. This is what you get for being a real estate broker around here. You have to be able to find stuff. It's part of my job is getting lost all the time.
Sounds good to me. Carrie, I see you got your hand up.
Yes, good evening, everyone. The county has a policy of not giving addresses to vacant land. And sometimes it really would be helpful, just as Bill has outlined, just to be able to know where you are. And so maybe at some point in time, whether that could ever be reconsidered, because I think having an address or just having markers in the road is so helpful for people, because sometimes it is difficult to navigate or know where you are. So it's just something that might be helpful and in the future. Thank you.
I agree, Carrie, and the vacant land only has the assessor parcel number, which doesn't give you a clue as to where it is. I mean, it gives you what map page you're on and stuff, but it's not something you can just hear the number and go, oh yeah, that's where it is, like an address.
Yeah, I was working on a project for the college district, and because it didn't have a street address, and having to meet the fire marshal, having to meet the building official out there. A lot of our farms, they don't have buildings, so therefore it's hard to meet people.
Yeah.
Your health inspector, when we had, because we got permits to abandon an oil well. So, I mean, yes, I just think that sometimes there are benefits to being able to locate these vacant properties that have agricultural value, and just it has a safety value for everyone. Thank you.
Sure. I think there has to be a certain kind of improvement on the property, Carrie, and I'm not sure. If you put a well on a property, does that require an address now? I'm not sure where that line is with the county. Maybe Summer, that's something you could find out for us in building and planning, as to what triggers an address. And then we could go along and do those things on all the properties and have addresses everywhere.
If I may, or if Natalie wants to speak, I was going to respond, but if Natalie has her hand up.
Thank you. It was just similar to the question that was already posed, but I was going to actually ask you if you do happen to know why there's no addresses on property with no improvements, because I think it does get a little confusing for a variety of reasons, especially when people do try to permit something on land, and it's it's difficult. So yeah, I'm sure there's a valid reason, but I'm curious, do you happen to know why that is?
Yeah, so our department does do the street number and street name addressing. And first I'll just say, Bill, I did not know, even though our department does issue those, I didn't know that's how it's done. So that was interesting. So thanks. Yeah, we don't do the practice it's a longstanding practice with our department prior to my coming on board, 14 years ago even, but that we don't provide addresses to vacant property or undeveloped property, because an address is what you need to get PG&E hookups. And due to, I am sure, most regulations come around from bad actors. So I'm sure that there's been violation cases in the past that the county has had to deal with, where there's an address to an undeveloped property, and now there's a bunch of unpermitted development and power to a property that's never gone through any sort of county permitting. So that is the practice, that we don't address vacant properties for that primary reason. There are situations, I would say a well typically would not get to an address. It would need to be some sort of permit application for, some sort of building structure that could get you an address. And typically once an application is submitted and there's, realistic interest from an investment from submitting a building permit application, we'll work on getting an address issued out to you. So, people can prepare in advance to get PG&E hookups and so forth as needed once their building permit is issued. But that's the reason I would say you're probably not going to see an address within a well application alone. But it depends because we do, for wells, you do need an energy source. So it kind of depends on the scope. And if there is a reason, that you can make a case for why you would need an address, that, we're not going to have concern that there could be activities going on that, may be of an issue relative to regulations. We could certainly look at that on a case-by-case basis. For example, for, ag properties, so.
I have something to say if you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you, Dante.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, this is nothing new. This came up years ago, Farm Bureau, Ag Advisory, about the mile markers. And really, it was more of a fire protection and planning thing. There's been accidents on these ranches over the years. We have emergency vehicles driving around lost, can't find these ranches because there's no physical address. So I would think for fire protection and planning, safety reasons, they would be willing to issue a physical address. It's not like it makes it buildable or legal, or, you still have to go through a building application process to get power. So I'm not quite following that reason. But really, she should bring this up for those reasons. And then mile markers along Highway 1, I see Caltrans is finally putting them back, which is great. We had an incident out here a while back where we had to call the Highway Patrol. Where are you? Well, we're north of Pescadero on Highway 1. We're south of Pomponio. You have no addresses out here. So again, for fire protection planning reasons, safety reasons, emergency vehicles, some of these rural area farm fields, things happen. It would just make it so much easier if they were more willing to issue a physical address.
Could I make a comment, Peter? Hello?
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, this sounds very interesting because in the early 80s, when my father and I developed some parcels in Pescadero, they gave us addresses. So we had addresses on all three parcels that weren't developed. So it was very interesting to hear opposite of what you guys are saying.
Yeah, that's true, huh?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it sounds like sometime between the early 80s and 15 years ago, there were some bad actors that created this no address policy, if I'm doing the math. But just to echo what Dante said, that was my first kind of gut reaction as well, of like, well, addresses and helps with access to safety, emergency vehicles and stuff. So glad that the mile markers are helping, and road markers. And I don't know if Caltrans or anyone else knows how the addresses relate to mileage, but that would be pertinent information for emergency services, certainly.
I would echo that we should, that hopefully the county would consider bringing back addresses, because unfortunately the parcels that are undeveloped that are adjacent to our parcels that are developed actually fall under our same address. So it's a real conundrum of difficulty as far as we are concerned. But for more important reasons, like what Dante said, for the safety issue, I always worry when we adhere to the bad actors, because we have to. And, I wish that we could just protect the people that are the good actors and keep them safe, for what it's worth.
No, I was just going to ask.
Billy opened a can of worms there.
Yeah.
And I raise hand.
You're welcome.
Got one other comment.
Go ahead.
And then I think Summer was ready to respond to this conversation.
One quick comment. And as far as addresses, when I moved to San Gregorio years ago, there was no address here. And because the post office wanted us to have an address, we made our own address.
This is Louis. John. I have to
go ahead,
along with what Peter just said. We've made our own address with the post office on our property. Besides,
we tried to do that with our
think,
property. And
I think we've gotten away from the agenda items here.
Yeah.
This is what happened.
Definitely. Well, we have time to actually discuss and explore topics today for the first time I can remember.
I was going to go to bed early tonight.
Yeah, but I think we can wrap. I think, Summer, you were just going to respond to kind of our request to bring this to the county, I believe.
Yeah. I was just going to mention that, I hear all of your comments and concerns regarding the addressing. And so I can certainly raise that to the planning and building department and get some feedback and bring it back to you.
You know, it sounds like there's a real safety issue here to be addressed, and that this could be something worthwhile agendizing as an issue for, the rural lands and the agricultural lands. Somebody gets injured or, whatever on a piece of farmland. There certainly is one of the most dangerous jobs in the world is agriculture, with all the heavy equipment and stuff. And anything we can do to help emergency responders get there to protect people's lives and safety seems important. And if some bad actors get away with something, so be it, if we're going to save some lives or limbs around here.
I know that the building department who issues the addressing works with the fire department to assign appropriate addressing. So I'll talk to both.
And whether it's addresses or mile markers or whatever we can do so that people know where they're going and where they are, they can identify their location.
Yeah. Last thing, just to piggyback on that, landlines were connected to physical addresses, and that related a lot to emergency responses. And since we're moving away from landlines, and there's not physical addresses connected to our phones, I think this is a much more pertinent safety issue than it was even 5 and 10 years ago. So just want to echo what Bill and Dante and Louis and Natalie and everyone, and Peter, everyone has been discussing.
Yeah, that's a good point, Lauren. Thanks.
Let's move forward.
Great.
Can I move we adjourn the meeting?
Can we?
Or does that just come from the chairperson?
I would second that motion.
No motion needed, John. You can just decree. You can just announce the meeting is adjourned.
Well, but Bill, I would like to announce the meeting has been adjourned if there are no objections.
Yay.
Well done, John.
Nope.
Power to the chairman.
Exactly. Thank you, everyone. Great meeting tonight.
Everybody.
Yeah, it's good to see everyone.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thanks,
Stay
everyone.
safe.
Good night.
Stay safe out there.
Good night.
Yeah, everybody stay safe.
Yes. And have fun.
Yeah. Good idea.